we really want to make a place that people want to be. And there's so much opportunity. We've just sunk literally everything we have into this business, and the world is shutting down around us. It's like millions of views. Once we made the decision, it was just like this weight was lifted off of us.
Hey everyone, Dave Men's Laundromat Millionaire today, coming to you from Cincinnati, Ohio, and we have another awesome laundromat owner in the works. You're gonna enjoy this story. It's very inspirational. It's very family oriented. I think you're gonna get a lot of value out of the journey that these people have taken to get to where they are today. I'm excited to introduce you someone that I got to meet probably 7 or 8 months ago, that came to Cincinnati and spent a little bit of time with me, and I consider him a friend. And we're excited to bring their story to you today. So we hope you get a lot out of this. Carla, do you want to introduce our guest?
Yes, I am very excited to introduce our guest today. His name is Pat McIntire, and he is the owner of the Laundry Spot in the beautiful Charleston, South Carolina. So, Pat, welcome to our show.
Thank you guys so much. I'm honored to be here. Great to be on with both you guys.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you picked up on that, but she said the beautiful Charleston, South Carolina.
Right.
So I think what I'm picking up in here is if you ever want to sell your laundromat, we may want to buy it. Just saying, we might want to need a tax write-off.
Open a South Carolina branch.
Right,
see
exactly.
how that goes.
See how that goes.
Go on
Spend 6
business
months.
trips.
Right,
Yes.
exactly. So yeah, I know my wife. She's a big fan of vacations.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yes.
anyway,
Yeah.
and I'm a big fan of laundromats, so it works, I guess.
Hey, there you go. It's the perfect world.
Anyways, well, listen, man, thanks for taking the time out of your busy day and with your family to join us here today and try to bring value to others. What we like to do to kind of start this out is just ask you to kind of give us a little bit of a quick backstory on kind of your personal childhood, your upbringing, and kind of what makes Pat who he is today.
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having us on, or having me on, I guess. Usually my wife is here with us when we do these, but she had to look after kiddos today. But so I mean, my story really isn't super remarkable from the beginning. Both my wife and I were raised in pretty humble homes. I grew up, I don't know if I'd want to say poor, but at times it was definitely poor, low income. Just kind of a self-employed family. Yeah, I mean, so basically I was sort of used to the world of being self-employed, but it wasn't necessarily the entrepreneur side of being self-employed. It was you do what you need to do to provide for the family side of being self-employed. And my dad had a big emphasis on being there for the family, and that's why he ran his own business, so he could have the schedule that he could be there for the family. And all of us kind of worked in the family business growing up. I started my first business right out of high school. It was doing kind of landscape maintenance, gardening, that sort of thing. Didn't go too well. I was not at the maturity level to where I could run my own business that well. And so I sort of melded that back into my dad's larger landscape company, and I kind of worked as a subcontractor to him. So I did landscaping for a lot of years growing up. Not always the most fun work. You sweat to death in the summer, you freeze to death in the winter. But it was just a good lesson to learn of, this is what it takes to survive and to get ahead sometimes and to provide for your family. So when my wife and I got married, both of us were just flat broke. I mean, we literally barely had enough money to drive home from our honeymoon. But she had kind of a similar story. She had kind of started her own little side business right out of high school. Neither of us went to college. And so she worked as a nanny and I worked as a landscaper. And then we just she started her video business on the side, and I helped her out in that. And we decided we wanted to get into property investing. So we basically sunk everything that we had at the time. Again, we're broke, and we pull together everything we can, and we buy a little house. We live there for a year and fix it up. And then we made the random decision to actually move out of it, move into an apartment and put it on the Airbnb market, which was a little bit of it was an interesting call at the time, because it was still when the Airbnb market was sort of coming of age, and we weren't really sure if it would pay off or not.
When would this have been? Like, what kind of, is this like in the mid 2000s?
Would have been like 2015-ish, probably 2014, 2015-ish. So Airbnb was definitely a thing at that point, but we didn't really have like a vacation home. It was just sort of a, residential home, this little dinky 1954 ranch house that we bought. And we spent a year there just, while I was working full time, she was working full time. We had the video business on the side, and then we're spending all this time fixing up this house. We put it on the Airbnb market, and it just took off for us. It just did amazingly. It was a great experience for us. We loved it. And then basically the video business started really taking off. It stopped being a side thing and started eating up more and more of our schedule. And eventually we both quit our other full-time jobs to do video full-time. And it was mostly, wedding videography. That was probably about 70 to 80% of our business. But then it was like corporate promos, commercials, that sort of thing too. My wife is very talented at it. I sort of acted as the assistant, and all that. But we built it up pretty big. At one point we were, and I say this humbly because this is more of a testament to my wife than to me. But we were, at one point, one of the more, I would say, respected wedding videographers in the state of Colorado within the industry. And I think it was 2017. We had an amazing year. We were just booked solid. We were making tons of money, but we were working all the time. Mm-hmm. And in the later part of that year, in a very short window of time, we had several family tragedies that sort of hit one right after another. My sister-in-law was almost killed in a car accident. My 5.5-month-old niece died of SIDS suddenly. And then we ourselves actually experienced a miscarriage. All of those happened within a few weeks, or,
oh, wow,
like maybe a month and a half of each other. And in every one of those instances, we were at work when those things happened. And we're on a video shoot where you can't just walk away. You can't just say, guys, something came up, I got to leave. We had to literally take the news, shove it aside, and keep working until it was some crazy stuff. I remember having a phone conversation with my brother, basically telling me that my niece wasn't going to make it. And I was standing, getting ready to shoot a wedding ceremony, and I had to hang up the phone and start getting the equipment ready to shoot the ceremony. It was just not a fun season of life. And at the end of that year, we had a great year, but my wife and I just looked at each other and we said, we're not doing that again. We will not ever be, put ourselves in that situation again. So we'd always sort of looked at the laundry industry as something we wanted to get into. But at that point in time, it was like a switch flipped, and we said, we're going to do everything we can to switch industries. We don't want to be here anymore. And we knew we also wanted to move to South Carolina, kind of at this point in time, because we are from Colorado originally. We knew we wanted to relocate. So we were like, the stars are kind of aligning here. Maybe we should just, when we switch industries, we just use that as a catalyst to move.
Are you renovating your store or building a new one? Tired of persistent and expensive plumbing issues like I was? Get an HM Company drain trough to give those drain lines a fighting chance against the constant wear and tear of laundromat life. Sizing is fully customizable to meet your needs, and lead times are a maximum of 2 weeks. I've used them in my stores in Cincinnati for years, and I'm installing them in my new store, which is opening soon. Visit their website today at draintroughs.com and contact your distributor to order your drain trough today.
So we really started pushing hardcore into positioning ourselves to relocate and start into the laundry industry. And took us a couple years to get there. And then in 2019, we finally moved down here. And a few months after we moved down here, we identified what we wanted to be our first laundromat, and started going through the process of purchasing that. And that's kind of where, it's led to all of this. We found one in just a gem of a place in a little neighborhood here, but it was beat up when we got it. The demographics were great. The numbers were great. But it had just been unloved for a very long time. And it was a dump. All of the machines were easily, I think the newest machines in the building were probably 15 years old. And they just got older from there. I mean, there were some relics in there.
You mentioned that I don't know if it was you or you and your wife both had always been intrigued by the laundromat industry. What was the catalyst for that? Like, walk us. I think I talk to a lot of people about laundromats. Anybody that'll listen, and a bunch of people that won't, to be honest.
Right.
And
Right.
And I'm always interested, because I always say this business isn't a sexy business. Like, it's not something you go to a dinner party and kind of
True.
brag to people that you own laundromats, because they're not really impressed.
Right.
But I always find that dichotomy interesting with the other side of the equation, which is people are always curious, though. Like, they're never
Right.
impressed, but they're always curious. How did you guys get to this point that you went from, I assume, some level of curiosity to like intentionality?
Why laundromats?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. So we had, again, as we began our entrepreneurial journey, we had always sort of had this eye on like quote unquote passive income streams. And by that, obviously the laundromat industry is not a passive income stream. I mean, I think there are some laundromat owners that think it is, but what we sort of felt by passive was something that like would reward us if we worked into it, but if we step away, it's still moving. You know, a lot of videography was like, if you aren't there doing something, there is no money coming in.
Yeah.
And so we really wanted to move away from that, again, as we started looking at saying we don't want to work this much, and not necessarily from a lazy standpoint, but from a standpoint of we need to be here with our family. You know, we were having more kids. We wanted to be present in their lives. And so we'd always loved the idea of buying businesses that sort of you could invest in, but also had a little bit of an element of where they ran on their own, so to speak. And so, but laundry was actually, there was a friend of ours who actually is in the laundry industry here in South Carolina, and he'd been in laundry forever. And he started talking to a buddy of mine and I about it, and just saying, yeah, it's a pretty lucrative business. And I was like, I never would have thought about that. I never even would have thought of the laundry industry. And then I remember the time that I looked at a sample pro forma from just a generic store that he had been working on or whatever. Just kind of gave a breakdown of, you know, what the store could do at different volumes and stuff. And I was like, this is a joke. They don't really make this much money. Like, this can't be it. And they were like, no, it does. So that sort of started our research of like, this could be the perfect kind of industry we're looking for, because it's, you know, again, it rewards you when you go the extra mile, when you put the blood, sweat, and tears into it. It's rewarding, but you also don't have to be present 24/7 to keep it going. And so we loved that aspect of it. And then the more we dug into it, the more it just became super fascinating for us. The fact that it is sort of an unknown industry, which means, and I feel like even from when we started researching it to now, it's been discovered a little bit more and people have innovated a lot more and stuff. But even now, just the opportunity there to say, look, we're not just going to own a laundromat to sort of make passive income and not think about it. We really want to make a place that people want to be. And there's so much opportunity with all of the rundown laundromats around. There's so much opportunity to be the place. And we were like, this is just a home run for us. It's family friendly. It has the, you know, it makes money while you sleep kind of aspect to it. But also it rewards you for investing. It rewards you for being present and showing up and innovating and putting that sweat equity into it. So it made sense for us. And we still researched it for several years. We talked to some good people who were in the industry, were very knowledgeable, and it was sort of a home run for us. Like, it checked all the boxes for what we were looking for.
For our viewers at home, what type of research did you do? You said you researched the industry. I think a lot of people hear that and they're like, I don't know where to go with that. I don't know what to do with that.
Where do I find this information?
Yeah.
You know, that's actually, podcasts like this, I would have loved to have been to have had access to.
Yeah.
Podcasts in general were one area that we looked, but when we looked, there just wasn't a lot. There were a lot of podcasts for laundromat owners, but there weren't a lot to kind of help people become acquainted with how to get into the industry. Researching was difficult. It was just a lot of random Google searches that all of them kind of netted a few tidbits here and there. And then talking to, you know, a few people that we knew in the industry. But the most research started when we actually made the decision it was something we thought we wanted to do. And we were partnered with a guy by the name of Brett Nolan, who
Yeah.
is a genius in the industry.
I know Brett.
And he was just a wealth of information. And I'm telling you, and this is what I encourage other people to do when they're getting into the industry: ask dumb questions. If you're not asking dumb questions, then you're not asking the right questions. Because I had so many questions that were probably the most basic, absurd questions in the world. But I'm telling you, I asked Brett everything I could think of, because we are very much, we're risk takers when it comes to business, but we like to look a lot before we leap. And so I wanted to know everything. I wanted to know, okay, best case scenario, worst case scenario. What does the turnaround look like? What about this scenario? And I'm telling you, Brett was so patient and worked so many hours answering what were probably some really good questions, but were also a lot of just very naive, very ignorant questions. And the wealth of information I learned just from speaking to him and kind of gleaning from his information, I feel like by the time we actually closed on our first store, we had so much more information on hand and were ready for so many things that didn't hit us as a surprise, because Brett was there to say, hey, look, watch for this when you first open. Don't do this. Look for this. And then our other friend, Luke Honkin, who is the one who kind of originally got us into the industry, he was here in South Carolina at the same time, kind of in the industry. And any questions that Brett didn't answer, I asked Luke, and Luke had an answer for me. So it was just sort of being surrounded by some good people who were very knowledgeable and who were very patient to answer a bunch of dumb questions.
I tell you what, I know this seems, I know it seems simple, but I want to call attention to it anyways, because what you're describing, and you didn't use the word, is mentors, plural.
Yep.
And I'll beat that horse until it's dead 10 times, because that's obviously my journey. And I know so many people that are successful in the laundromat industry, and I don't know that I could count on one hand the number of them that wouldn't point to that. A lot of times it is their distributor. So I like to really give Rockstar Equipment Distributors credit where credit is due. Yep. But even a bigger picture than just focusing in on a distributor is just when you're getting into the industry, there's a lot of ways we can learn, but one of them is by finding great mentors. Yeah. Sometimes you have to pay them, like you hire a consultant or something. Yep. Sometimes you find a podcast and they become, I joke all the time that my business journey, I joke all the time that I feel like I have 10,000 mentors, but 9,999 of them don't know who I am, because I've never met them, but I've read their book or I've listened to their podcast. And, I read magazine articles written by them, and I feel like I know them. They've helped me be successful, but they don't even know I exist. And I try to really point out to people that if you want to be successful, we're a laundromat specific podcast, but we're also small business based. And so I think that's one of the things in business that is transferable from industry to industry. I think those lessons are very valuable for people in any industry.
And networking. I mean, you're talking to other laundromat owners. So, learning from them. The first guy who got you into it, you said, is already in the business in South Carolina. So just networking within the industry. I mean, I know you've been up here and worked with Dave some, and just getting to know other people in the industry. And I don't care how long you've been in the business. I mean, Dave now still will go and talk to somebody, and we've been in the business, over a decade now. And still he's like, I learned so much from that person, because everybody has a different journey and there's always something you can learn.
When you're passionate about something, you can't help but absorb every bit of information you find. And Dave, I will say, even the short amount of time that we spent together up in Cincinnati, I'm pretty sure all my manager and all my employees are probably tired of hearing about, like, oh, the way they did it up in Cincinnati, because it was just being at your location. It wasn't even things that you specifically said, do this, don't do that. Just observing and taking in the way the operations went on a regular basis, and sort of pulling from that and saying, okay, well, maybe this wouldn't work for us, but this definitely would. And even if it isn't, doing things exactly the way Dave does them, it still is helping us rethink, like, okay, well, we definitely don't want to be doing it the way we're doing it now. So even if we come to a different conclusion, how do we rethink that portion of our business? And that has been just, I count you among the individuals who have helped me, and it's been, I know, more recent, because we sort of connected more recently, but it has also been invaluable, just the little lessons from either reading an article you've written, listening to one of your podcasts, or spending time with you at your laundromats that have really helped me glean information that I've been able to take back and just tighten up our operation just that much more. And it's been very valuable. So I thank both of you guys as well for the help you've offered.
Oh, well, absolutely. And one of the things, there's many reasons we created this podcast and our Laundromat Millionaire conference that we have coming up in March and different things we're doing like that is, I think sometimes people like you and us, we take for granted what we know. Like that, what you just described and what we've said we've done for over a decade now, we can take for granted the fact that networking is valuable. Mentors are important. Sharing and learning, taking the time. I mean, we were willing to have you there, obviously, but you were also willing to take the time and effort to come up to Cincinnati, spend time, take notes, record videos, all the stuff you did to try to make your business better. And you didn't have to do that. Now, granted, we didn't have to have you, but you didn't have to do that. So this is a two-way street. Really, what I'm trying to do is, because this is how I've learned. This is like where my heart is. This is how I've gotten to where I am. It wasn't me being smart, believe me, anything but that. It was me digging and pulling little, what I call golden nuggets from everyone, Frankensteining a business together and making it my own. And I really feel like our industry is it's not that we don't care as an industry. I really believe this, that for the most part, we don't know. We don't understand how valuable these relationships are. And the networking Carla referred to, the mentors you're talking about. I don't know, but I'm guessing that these mentors you had have also in some way, shape or form connected you with other people in the industry, far or close away, whatever, that have also helped you in little ways be successful. And I think it's really important that people that are successful in the industry, we share how we got success. Instead of just saying, do this because I do it, let's share how you learned that. And then maybe you don't need to come to Cincinnati per se, but you now understand how I accomplished what I accomplished. And in this case, how you and your wife did yours. So I really appreciate you sharing that. So walk us through the journey of finding this laundromat. You said it was a turnkey operation, multi-million-dollar store, absolute Taj Mahal of laundromats is what you said, right?
It just gleamed, when we walked in the door for the first time.
My question is, I know you said that it was very rough looking. Were people still using it though?
They were, and that's what was shocking to me is because I walked in for the first time. So we were actually, I feel like it might have been around Christmas time. I don't remember. We were leaving Lowe's as a family, and I got a ping from Brett, who was helping us find locations, and he said, "This one I just saw this on a message board or on Facebook somewhere in some private group. It just came on. I've done a preliminary run of the numbers. It looks decent, just the demographics of the area. But could you swing by and take a look at it?" So on our way home from Lowe's, we drove by this place. And I pulled up and I took one walk through the store, and I was like, I don't believe there are people doing their laundry here. It was, now I will tell you this, and I say this because the employees that were working there, some of them we still have working for us because they're excellent people and they do an excellent job of keeping the place clean. So it wasn't that the place was dirty. It was that it was so run down, you couldn't tell it was clean. That's basically the way that I would put it. The floor was just unfinished concrete it was like a garage floor or worse. Half the machines were out of order. And again, the ones that weren't were still pretty rough looking. There were, towels everywhere, sopping up leaks and stuff like that. So I didn't introduce myself to anybody. I didn't go, I just literally took a walk through the store. I might have even pulled my phone out and just kind of secretly recorded as I kind of walked through. But it was, now when I saw that, I was like, this is what we need. That's what we wanted. We wanted to buy the worst laundromat in the best location, because you can't ever, you can't change the location. You can change everything else.
If people are using a laundromat in that condition, ding, 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 that is an underserved market. So, if I can make this nice, they are going to really come.
Flourish. Yep.
Exactly. And that's exactly what we realized with it. It was a diamond in the rough, and it needed a lot of polishing, but it had a good, loyal customer base, in the cutest little downtown area. It was the roughest looking building in the neighborhood. Everywhere else had kind of come up and, or come back and was all fancy and, hipster looking or whatever you want to say. And so we just had this opportunity to say, look, if, this place is just primed to just have someone take it over and show it some love and have it flourish. And so that's what got us started. And then it was, as with every purchase, that there's a lot of back and forth. There's the negotiation and kind of seeing eye to eye on what the price would be and what the terms would be. And the gentleman we bought it from is another guy, excellent guy, super knowledgeable, but he was just sort of, he didn't want to be in the laundromat industry anymore. And but he's also been someone who's helped, even since then, helped instruct me along and teach me about the industry and stuff. But it was really it was a very smooth transfer, a very lengthy but a very smooth transfer. The interesting thing about the purchase, though, was that we found it in December of 2019 to January of 2020 is when we started the process. So if you follow that timeline out of a few months of what's happening in the background in the world in that time, we closed on the store March 31st of 2020, just about a week or so after the entire world shuts down. And so we've just sunk literally everything we have into this business, and the world is shutting down around us, and we're just like, holy cow, what the heck is going on?
What was your raw thought? What was you and your wife? You're looking at each other? Because I can tell you, we were very established when that happened. We had multiple locations. We were diversified. We had a good nest egg. We were well positioned for this. Not that you can ever be well positioned for a worldwide pandemic, but you get the idea. And we were still, like, all full disclosure, we were terrified. We were terrified. We were like, are we going to lose everything? Is everybody going to have to stay home for a year because we can't like shut everything down? Are we going to, should we pay our employees? Can we pay our employees to stay at home and not have any revenue? I can't imagine what was going through your mind.
It was actually so interesting because I think we were already just hit with this deluge of everything at once that I actually don't remember having the time to actually sit down and freak out about the pandemic, which I know it sounds funny to say,
no, that's
but it was
point.
only after the fact that we looked back, and I think somebody mentioned to us, like, man, it's got to be tough buying a business in the middle of a pandemic. And we were like, oh yeah, we did do that, didn't we? Because it was just everything was right off the bat, just like, we already weren't really planning on making a profit right off the bat. We were like, if we could keep employees paid and keep the lights on, that's a success. We're still living off savings. We're good. And that really helped. The fact that we knew we could live off savings for a little while, and that if all the store had to do was pay for itself, and that our employees were working on, reduced hours, just out of, trying to keep them as safe as possible while keep the operation running. So it was sort of like we just sort of hunkered down and we're just like, all right, just maintain. But at the same time, there was tons of work that had to be done on the store, and we couldn't just sit on it. So, everybody, the world's all freaking out about, washing your hands and stuff. And I'm at a laundromat, rolling around on the floor, painting and fixing machines and doing that for, weeks straight. We had budgeted a small amount of renovation costs into our original loan, but that only covered so much. A lot of the work was kind of, I did. And Dave, I know that, you have a very similar story. Listening to your guys' story, it was very similar to ours. My wife is home with the kids for hours and hours every day, doing what she can to support and help with the books and keep everything together. And I'm there at the laundromat, just painting walls, fixing machines, doing whatever I can. It made for a very interesting several months where, I'd get home from the laundromat and I'd, take off all my work clothes before I said hey to the kids or to the wife. I'd go and rinse down, take a shower and all that, because we had no clue. At that point, it's like, oh, just, disinfect everything. And so it was a rough time. And then what's interesting is layered on top of that is about 2 to 3 weeks after purchasing it. It's about 10:30 at night. My wife and I are sitting at home, and I get a call from one of our employees. And she says, Pat, is that our laundromat on fire? And I was like, this is not the kind of call that I want to get right now. And I said, I haven't received any notifications, but I'll check from my end. And she's like, okay, somebody said there was one on fire in that area, and I wasn't sure if it was ours or not. And I said, you check with your sources, I'll check with mine and see. So I immediately jumped on the security cameras, and they were all offline. And I was like, that's a bad sign. And she called me right back and said, it is ours. And so I flew out the door and I drove there. And we, at this point again, we were like, we have no clue what's waiting for us. We just opened the store. Like the ink was still wet on our insurance, our insurance policy.
At least you had one though.
It's true. It's true. So then I had no clue what I was pulling up to. And I pull up, there's fire engines outside. The building's empty. All the lights are pulled. And I was just like, oh my gosh, how much damage did it do? And thankfully, it stayed mostly contained to one dryer stack. It was greasy work rags and a dryer. And we were, I mean, there was just so many ways that we were so blessed that it could have gone a lot worse. There were customers in the store at the time. They caught it. They were able to call the fire department right away. That's just down the street from us. So it was out pretty quickly. But it still did a ton of smoke damage. They had the firemen, kind of as a precaution, had just taken one of our, it was a Speed Queen T45 stack unit, so it's a big piece of machinery. They had literally just dragged it down the hall, out the front door of our store, and just dropped it on the entry ramp of our store, just on its side. It smashed the glass and everything. The dryer was completely toast. And they just sort of left it there and were like, so good luck, we got the fire out. And we're like, okay, thanks for that. Wow. But we had to close for about, I was surprised how quickly we were able to get it open again. We had to close down for a few days, clean everything up. We ran some ozone machines to get the smell out. And we were able to open up again. Again, it looked like garbage. There was a gaping hole in our wall of dryers. There was obvious smoke damage in different places. It still smelled like smoke. But people still came in the doors and they still were using our machines, and we were able to still keep that income trickling in. And so it could have been a lot worse for us. But between, the pandemic and the dryer fire right off the bat, we just got a baptism by fire our first month in the industry.
Literally.
And so we fell just short of breaking even our first month. And we felt we were like, I mean, that was a blessing for us.
Yeah.
We weren't scared. We were like, we made it. We did it. Month one, we did it. It's only up from here.
If we can endure that, we can endure anything.
Exactly.
So what types of renovations did you end up doing to your store? So what all did you change?
Mostly it was just basic things, new floor, painted the entire inside and outside. On the outside, we kind of did some, our business partner who we kind of work with, they're kind of silent partners who help us out with this. He's an interior designer, so he kind of drew up some sketches of how he wanted it to look inside and outside, and so we just sort of worked off that plan. So it's basically just a basic facelift inside and outside. We got some new machines with the again, we rolled those into the initial purchase price as well. Wasn't enough to replace all of them, obviously. We're still in the process of doing that, but we got some new machines in there. Just a lot of spit and polish, cleaning the place up, painting everything we could find that we could paint, getting rid of stuff, pulling stuff out of there that didn't need to be in there. And then just like a ton of work on the exterior of the building to make it look like it was a legitimate building and not a crumbling, brick facade. And it really, again, it paid off. We just the renovations alone, as we worked on the renovations, we could track the income going up month to month, just as a result of it looking nicer. And so many customers, our existing customers, would just be like, we love what you're doing to the place. This is amazing. It looks so much better. It's so much cleaner. And then we started seeing new faces come in as well of people who were like, oh yeah, I saw good reviews online about the place. Or at that point, we kind of knew we were doing something right. And so we were like, all right, let's just not rock the boat. Let's just keep going on this and see what happens. And it's paid off for us.
Did you just use word of mouth, or is there any type of marketing that you did to help grow that?
I will say most of it was word of mouth. We had grand plans for, different marketing schemes and stuff like that. And in between the pandemic and just being straight out busy and not having the time, we sort of just let it happen to us. And it was enough organically that we were like, maybe we actually really don't at this point in time, and I'm not knocking the value of advertising because it is so valuable, but for us, it just sort of worked out that it fell into place that as we were able to grow to serve more people just started coming. And that was great for us from our end. We were just like, hey, this is amazing. If again, if you don't have to tinker with things, don't tinker with it. And we've still, we've worked with we've done some door hangers and stuff like that for our drop-off service, but honestly, we haven't seen as much return from those as we would have thought right off the bat. And that's a longer play. But the biggest thing was just, again, you have a loyal customer base and people hear about it. And then the other big thing was just incentivizing people to review your place on Google or Facebook or wherever, getting those good reviews and making sure we had an online presence. And I would say that's the thing that we did increase. It had the previous store had a Facebook page, wasn't necessarily the most maintained. I don't know if they ever posted to it. So we did a full rebrand. We didn't go with the existing name. We changed everything, and just, our Google listing was new, our Facebook listing was new, and just really kind of, there's signs up around the store like, hey, give us a good review and get a free dry, or, something like that. I'll be honest, no one actually took us up on that, but it must have somehow incentivized good reviews, because the reviews started coming in. And then once you increase that online presence and you have good reviews, people are still like, hey, this is, they've got 4 or 5 stars on Google. I'm going there, compared to this other place that has 2.5 stars on Google. I'm going to the one. And so that was very valuable to us as well. And we did what we could to kind of push in that direction. And we've been very, very blessed in that sense as well.
I've been shocked at how many laundromats have no online presence. I mean, they have no web page, no Facebook page, nothing. I did want, Dave mentioned, what's this about, a viral TikTok video?
Oh yeah. So
I don't actually even know what I'm talking about. That's all I know. But I did mention it to her. I was like, we don't do TikTok. We're old people. I was like,
right.
They had some TikTok. I was like, I know they had some video on TikTok go viral. I don't know any more than that, but we could ask you about it.
So my wife's brother had mentioned to us, he's big into marketing and stuff. And he was like, you know what? You guys should just tell your story. Just jump on TikTok. Just tell your story. And so we did. We were just like, all right. So we got on TikTok, and my wife put together just like a brief 60-second, overview of our story from, selling a rental property, moving to South Carolina, buying a laundromat, the pandemic, the fire, everything,
in 60 seconds. In 60 seconds.
Yeah, it was a very brief overview.
Yeah.
But cool. For some reason, it caught on and it took off like overnight, where, it's like millions of views.
So my husband and I finally bought a laundromat after wanting to for years. We sold our only home to have the capital to do so. And then literally 1 week after owning the store, a pandemic hits. 2 weeks after owning the store, a machine catches on fire, and we don't have enough money to pay our deductibles, so our amazing family came and helped us get things up and running again. Now we're in the process of updating it. My husband painted the entire store, installed this awesome siding on the outside. I'm adding fresh labels throughout the store, and it's coming together pretty well. Follow to be kept updated on the renovation process and to see what it's like to own a laundromat.
And we're just like, oh wow, this kind of came out of nowhere. And so we're at that point, like kind of backfilling, like, okay, what do you do when you have a video that goes viral? How can you, because it doesn't really matter. Most of the people seeing this video aren't going to be customers of the laundry spot. So, we're trying to figure out the value of that. And then we actually were contacted by the president of LaundryLux, because our machines are LaundryLux machines and stuff, and old Wascomat machines are what was in the building. And they were like, we saw your story. We saw that you use our equipment. We really want to kind of reach out to you guys, help you out a little bit. And so we had a conversation with the president of Wascomat and the president of LaundryLux. We kind of sat down, had a meeting with them, and were able to chat with them. And they gifted us 3 washers, like 3 brand new washers that they were like, hey, we want to give these to you, help you out as you continue to kind of replace things. And then they put us in touch with their marketing team, their website team. And just, it was so great. They were such good people. They built our website for us. They gave us all sorts of marketing advice, material, different things of like, hey, here's how we can structure this and move in this direction. So that partnership ended up being massively valuable as well. So we're like, hey, if that's all we get out of that TikTok, that's more than enough. That's
Sure.
tens of thousands of dollars worth of value there.
Yeah.
And so over time, we haven't done as much on TikTok recently. It's been, we've been a little bit too busy for that, but it's still been something that's sort of there in the background that we've gotten a few partnerships from and stuff. And it was kind of fun. We've had a few customers come in and say, hey, we live up the road. Our washer just broke and we saw you guys on TikTok, and now we're excited. We finally get to come here and stuff. We're like, oh, wow, that's, you feel kind of famous, pseudo famous for a few minutes, and then back to normal life. But
Yeah. Well, let's be honest. If you were in their situation, you would probably want to support that business. I know I would. You'd be like, hey, that's kind of a cool story. Good for them for,
Right.
having the staying power to push through adversity in those ways and stuff. I definitely would want to support them. I have a quick question for you that Carla wouldn't let me talk for a while, but
Sorry.
now I'm going to jump in. No, I'm just kidding.
Now you know how it feels.
Usually it's the opposite. We all know that. No, you touched on it several times, and there might be nothing here, but I want to ask you. So I tell people all the time, the number one factor to whether you're going to be successful in this industry or not is finding a location where the laws of supply and demand are tipped in your favor.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's what you found. And it sounds like at some point you figured that out, at least to some level, like there's a need here. I always say, are people in pain? Are people not being
Right.
served properly? And I mean in the market, not necessarily the store. Did you do any due diligence on your competitors in the market, like a 5 to 10 mile radius around this store?
Yeah.
Or did you just go into the store and say, this place is busy and it's awful, that's enough for us?
I would love to say that it was just gut level entrepreneur instinct that I walked in and said, this is going to be our place. This is going to be successful. But again, that was something that we leaned heavily on Brett to kind of help us out with.
Okay.
We ran all the demographics. That was one of the first things we did when the location came up, because we were like, this place is a dump. It could have potential if the numbers are good, if the demographics are good. But if it's not, then it's not worth investing in,
Right.
because you're going to chase your tail the entire time.
Mhm.
And so we ran, we did a thorough check of all the demographics for the 1, the 5, the 10 mile radius. We checked out our
Mhm.
competition, what else was in the area. And that was actually the biggest strength of it. That's why we kind of realized it was a diamond in the rough, is because all the demographics checked out that this could be a very lucrative location, but it was more than likely, and it was still busy, but it wasn't like, we knew there was room for growth there.
Mhm.
Especially once we started the transaction and we actually got to look at the books and look at the financials of the place. We were like, this is clearly not operating at max capacity, because the demographics show that there's room for growth here, and this isn't where it needs to be.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of one of the reasons that we were willing to take a risk on it, is because the demographics were there. And I mean, that's a huge thing. I still don't know how to run demographics on my own. I'll be honest. I always work with a consultant or partner with someone that can do that. But that's a huge part of it. You cannot change location, and it does not matter, what you do to make it fancier. If the people are being served elsewhere and they're content with where they're being served, if there's a competitor that's way nicer up the street that's already garnered all that customer loyalty,
Mhm.
you're starting off with an uphill battle of
Mhm.
trying to win customers away from them right off the bat. And it's just a bad situation to put yourself in. So, and coming from a little bit of the world of real estate investing, I think we kind of had trained our minds of, don't fall in love with a building. Don't fall in love with, fall in love with the numbers and make sure the numbers make sense to you.
Mhm.
And then if the numbers make sense, then you can leave. And then at that point, you can fall in love with the building and do all the other stuff you want to do. But
Mhm.
just make sure that you're not jumping into a bad situation.
Yeah.
And so again, we were very blessed with a great team of people that did all that for us. And that's when we the light went on of like, this has room for a ton of growth that's not being utilized right now. And if we are able to capitalize on that, then this is going to be a great location for us. And that was not wrong. All of that analysis was not wrong. It just
Mhm.
followed that path exactly, as almost exactly as predicted.
Mhm. When you visited the competitors, what did you find? I mean, was there 2 or 3 laundromats within a 5 mile radius, and they were all as bad as this? So it was just like, well, that took 2 hours. this is a no-brainer, let's move forward? Or did you do a lot, like, were there some of them that were in better condition than this one, and you were like, okay, what do we have to do to get above that?
So I'll be honest, that's probably one area where I was not as on top of things as I should have been, because I didn't even visit the competitors.
Oh, okay.
I looked at where they were at. We kind of ran the numbers. There's only one that is within, I think it's a mile or two up the road. There's only one other location. It's probably our closest competitor. Just being very frank and honest, from what we know, it's a fairly decent operation, run pretty well. But again, I did not check on that stuff before. Again, Brett is really good at that as well, as he will, walk a newbie through the numbers of, here's the closest one, here's the challenges they have, here's the advantages they have. So when we looked at that one, and it was like, okay, this one, it's far enough away that it's really not going to interfere too much. It will be our closest competitor. And it's remained that, we will still, if we're ever compared to a laundromat, it's that laundromat, the one up there. But that's one area that I would recommend that people do that. But we didn't necessarily put together to do that beforehand. It was just, we sort of looked at it on paper, and that's kind of all that we did.
I tell people all the time, one of the most valuable things of an equipment distributor, let me rephrase that, of a rock star equipment distributor, is that their number one job, and this is just my opinion, I'm not saying they feel this way, this is my opinion, an equipment distributor's number one job is to have their ear to the ground of your market at all times, so that whether they meet you or they meet me, when somebody needs to be served, they know and understand the landscape. Now, I'm not trying to put Brett on the spot or anything, but I know him from afar. I can't say we're friends or anything, but I know him from afar. Seems like a very professional, diligent guy from what I know. Would you suspect that you didn't have to do those things because he kind of already knew those answers? He kind of been like, hey, I've been in this business for 20 years. Don't worry about these guys. Don't worry about these guys. And you were just like, sounds good to me. This guy's the expert. And so it's not, my point is this, it's not that the due diligence wasn't done. It's that you didn't do it, but finding a rockstar equipment distributor, that's part of the value prop that an equipment distributor of that level brings. They don't just sell washers and dryers.
You touching on that is exactly right. I think the reason why there was never a feeling that I needed to do that was because by that point, Brett had proven himself to us so much. By that point, we'd been looking for laundromats with Brett over a year at that point. And we'd had some near misses. We'd looked at different locations. He'd come from Georgia to help me go look at locations. So we'd been through a lot at that point. And at that point, I knew, okay, if Brett feels good moving forward with this. Now, I still wanted, again, I'm still asking the dumb questions, because at the end of the day, it's my money going into this, not Brett's. But if Brett, there had been locations that we'd looked at that Brett had told me, you don't want to get this location. Here's why. And he gave the reasons for it. So when we looked at the numbers, when we looked at the locations and everything, it was like, if Brett feels that's not a threat, then I'm going to say it's not a threat. But not just a blind trust. It was because he'd already proven his worth and his expertise. Brett, from what I know of his story, Brett was raised in the laundry industry, and he's one of those people that it's like, when he's not at work, he's still thinking about the laundry industry. He just can't turn it off. So he knows, he could probably tell you, he doesn't even live in South Carolina, but he could probably tell you the owner of every laundromat in our area and what their operation is and what their challenges are, just because he knows that much of the entire region. And so that gave us a huge leg up when he would just be like, hey, this one has this location just down the road, and they're just killing it. You don't want to go to that location. And we were just like, all right, if Brett says it. And we even tested that a few times. We were like, okay, let's look into things, just see it. Every time we questioned Brett, we were just reminded, like, nope, Brett knows what he's talking about, and you don't. And so it's not, again, you still ask the dumb questions. Don't just ever blindly trust someone.
Absolutely.
But also learn where people are smarter than you, and where you need to take advice of people who have either made mistakes themselves or have watched people make mistakes, and be able to say, all right, I might not always see the end from the beginning, but I trust that you do, or you have seen that before, and we're gonna sort of pull back on this and go with what you say. And so that was, again, so valuable. That's the number one thing I would tell anyone looking to get into this business, is find a good mentor, a good consultant, a good equipment distributor, a rock star equipment distributor right off the bat, because there's just no way I can even imagine doing this without the help that Brett gave us. We could not have put ourselves in this situation without that.
Yeah. That's such a common theme for everybody I know. I don't know if everybody's the right word, but most people I know that are successful in this industry. So I just keep trying to pound that because I think there's a lot of value there. All right, let's jump into this pickup and delivery journey. When did you decide to launch pickup and delivery? Am I thinking right? About 2 years ago, you bought the store. You had a journey where you said you're slowly still renovating the store, but got to the point where you were comfortable with the self-serve side of the business. You had the core business, at least stable is maybe a word I'll use. And
Did
you
you already
decided,
have drop off?
Yeah.
Did it have drop off when you bought it, or did you add drop off?
It had an existing drop-off business when we bought it. It wasn't much, but it was there. So we just sort of built on that.
Yeah. So tell us that story. Tell us about why you got into pickup and delivery, the conversations I'm sure you and your wife had, and why you decided to take that dive, and then the results of it. Because we're not here to just tell all the positives in life about everything good. The reality is, I'll throw the spoiler alert out there. They're actually actively closing down pickup and delivery as we speak. They've decided that's not for them. So a part of the show is we asked Pat if he was willing to share why that is, what he learned, why he would do things differently, or if he would. And he's graciously agreed to do this only from the aspect of just trying to bring others value and maybe things you should consider before you get a pickup and delivery. We don't just want to shine a light on the beautification of pickup and delivery. We want to shine a light on maybe this isn't for, well, we all know it isn't for everyone, and it isn't for everyone at the right time. And I know you mentioned that too. So I'm going to let you run with this, but tell us why you thought about getting into pickup and delivery and why you pulled the trigger.
Well, I'll be honest, it was something that, my wife and I are in this together, and then we have some business partners that we work with as well.
Okay.
And of that group of individuals, I was the one that sort of was banging the gong of pickup and delivery from the very beginning. I don't know, in some podcast or something I'd listened to, I'd heard the idea, and I'd gleaned just a little bit of information about that particular side of the industry. And it just clicked in my brain. I was like, I believe this is one of the directions the industry is going. It makes a lot of sense to me. I see value there. So I kind of want, from the very beginning, even when we were renovating the store that was broken down, in my brain, I wanted to be in pickup and delivery.
Okay.
It took a little while to build up because we knew we didn't have the infrastructure right off the bat to support it. So we kind of waited, and we focused on getting the store up, getting the self-serve to where we wanted it, getting the pickup and drop off, or the drop off service, not to where we wanted it. We still feel like that has room to grow, but we had it more stabilized. And so finally we were like, you know what? We feel like this could be the time to get into pickup and delivering. We started talking to some people. We were pointed in the direction of, where we could kind of go with that, some of the options you can go with that. And we were excited. We were like, hey, this is where we want to be. There's so much potential here to add to our bottom line. We have all this time, in the middle of it on a 2 p.m. on a Wednesday when we have a ton of equipment that's just sitting idle. This is a way we can utilize that. And so we got into the industry. We were really excited. And it, again, as we've talked about, Dave, I still actually believe in the value of pickup and delivery. What we found right off the bat, and what just as over the months of us doing it became more and more of a challenge for us. And Carla, I think you've mentioned this before. I've heard other people say it too, is that pickup and delivery is a logistics business. It's not necessarily a laundry business. And if you can figure out how to do those logistics really well, and if you have a team that can do those logistics very well, then there is definitely a market for that. What we found right off the bat is that I don't know if I want to say it was too soon for our operation, or if flat out it was just we didn't want to invest our effort into what that infrastructure needed to look like to be able to support those logistics. But it just ended up, it started pulling us down pretty quick. And when I say pulling us down, I don't necessarily mean financially pulling us under. We were basically breaking even, maybe losing a little bit of money, but basically breaking even for most of the months we did it. And so it wasn't necessarily a financial concern for us. It just got to the point where I was looking at my team. My team was basically stretched to the max. I was stretched to the max. I was gone all the time, which is literally the exact opposite of the reason that we got into the laundry business in the first place. And we just, I was doing all the driving up front. We weren't on top of things when we should have been to actually put a driver in that position soon enough. So we were constantly chasing that. And then just with the staffing shortage and everything coming up, we had people that we would try to bring on board that would just flake out on us or whatever. And we sort of realized when we stepped back, we got to this point where we were like, you know what, as this increases in volume, as it gets to the point where in theory, it's making what we need it to make to justify its existence, these problems are just exacerbated. And again, if you have a passion to cure those, if you have a system to cure those, or the team, whatever, I still believe in that sector of the industry, but we had to get to a point, and it was not an easy decision for me because I truly was passionate about this portion of the industry. And when I say passionate about it, I mean, I'm passionate about the fact that I know it's going to be successful and going to be a big thing moving forward. But what I realized is I wasn't passionate about the actual execution of that. And no one on the team really was. And so from a logistics standpoint, it just started falling down, and we were like, it all would always come back on me. We'd build out a team, and then it would just, somebody would leave or something would happen and it would all come back on me. And after a few of those times where it kept coming back on me, my wife and I kind of sat down and were like, you know what? We need to step away from this. It's a good business. It is for some people, but we decided early on that we are a business that is focused on me being at home with a family first and foremost. And we've tried to keep a good perspective, and it hasn't always been easy, but through all of our businesses, whenever we've hit a point where we realized, we're not getting time with our kids, we're not home when we need to be home, we're losing out on family time, then we've tried to be diligent about having the discipline to move away from or cut off whatever has been doing that. And so for us, pickup and drop off was just the latest version of that. I love the laundry industry. And I want to continue to be in the laundry industry. We want to own more laundromats and all that, but pickup and delivery just wasn't the right time for us. We just didn't have the team for it. And the X's and O's just didn't make sense for us at the end of the day. And so we made what was a challenging decision to step away from it. But once we made the decision, it was just like this weight was lifted off of us. And we were like, why didn't we do this sooner? This just makes so much sense. So
yeah. How long did you do pickup and delivery? I mean, I know you're just now exiting it, but.
So we started it. We kind of opened the doors on that in April of last year, of 2020. Of April of 2021. And so we've been in it probably about 9 months at this point. And again, we've seen the growth there. But that was sort of the problem, is the growth is one of the reasons why we're moving away from it. Is it just the numbers just didn't work out at the end of the day. So
yeah, your business was growing, but your staff wasn't.
Exactly. And again, there are always things you can do you can hire more people and chase them down. And I'm a huge fan of that, putting good people in good positions.
Yeah.
But when I realized the idea that, the more you grow, the more you're going to have to be hiring. So this is really never a problem that's going to go away. And whenever you own a business, you're going to deal with staffing and with employees. But we sort of looked at the team we had and we were like, we really like this team. And this team is more than adequate to handle where we want to be going as a business without the drop off, without the pickup and drop off. We have a good team already. So what if we just sort of step back and say, let's perfect where we're at? There's still room for us to grow. There's still room for our drop-off service to grow, for us to, again, expand and take what we know works into a second laundromat. There's still room for us to grow. It's not like we're just capping our income and being like, all right, we're just going to make this amount of money for the rest of our lives. There's still room for us to grow in ways that sort of fit more with our perspective and our reason for being in the industry. And so that was why we made that decision.
Sure. Well, I appreciate you being so genuine and transparent in the whys of why you got into the industry, or the pickup and delivery side of things, and why you decided it isn't for you. But I do find it interesting. You said it's not for us right now. So who knows what the future holds? And I don't think you've totally written that off. But you know that now's not the right time for you. And just to jump on this real quick, as somebody that's been doing pickup and delivery at a high level for gosh, what, 6 years now, something
Mm,
like that. I'll tell you right now, like we were in a better position as far as organizational structure and things like that, management, things like that, than you all were when you launched. We needed about a 2-year runway, guys.
mhm.
Like don't approach pickup and delivery haphazardly. Really
Yeah,
think it through and say, am I willing to work my tail off to, and you might be in different places. Am I willing to work my tail off for a couple years, quite frankly, for with very little returns and
In fact,
profitability?
negative returns for a while.
We lost money
Our
for a
other
couple years.
businesses
We
supported the
did.
pickup and
They
delivery
did.
till
Our
we
other
figured it out.
She's exactly right. And that's not for everybody, and that's okay. And that doesn't make you anything. It just makes you you. The beauty of
right.
being a business owner is we each get to choose what our business is, what it looks like,
Yeah,
and we also reserve the right to pivot and change that at any point. So I appreciate you taking the time to point that out, because I think even myself, sometimes I'm guilty of making pickup and delivery something out that it is for me now, but I
right.
forget to remind people, and I know I've said it publicly, but I forget to continue to bring it up of how rough those first couple years were.
Yeah,
And they were rough, and that's not for everybody. And it doesn't make you a bad person or lazy or anything like that. It might
right,
mean the timing's not right. It might mean that it's never going to be right. But I
right,
think this will help a lot of people as they're looking at this decision. Is this something I want to pursue ever? And more importantly, is it something I want to pursue now? Because I think those are
right.
important things for us to all reflect on. And that's really what this show is all about. Pat, I'm going to let you go. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day and away from your family to share all these nuggets of wisdom and your journey with us. I'm honored to know somebody that's TikTok famous, because I don't even know how to spell TikTok. So maybe someday we'll meet and I can get your autograph. Maybe you
Yeah.
can come to the Laundromat Millionaire Conference. It's in
If
Fort
you're lucky,
Lauderdale. It's not that far from you. Maybe I can get
it's
your
true.
autograph and I'll give you a book. How about that? If you give me
Hey,
an autograph,
hey, I'll
I'll
take it.
give
I'll
I'll give
take
you.
it.
But anyway, we gotta. I know you have a lot going on with your young family and your businesses, but we gotta stay connected, my friend. Because every time I talk to you, I
Absolutely,
enjoy it, and I feel like
definitely.
I feel like I'm a better version of myself. And I told my wife that that I enjoyed our time together. So we
Definitely.
appreciate you taking the time to come on here. I don't know if you want to share this or not, but I'll give you the opportunity. If people want to reach out to you and get to know you, you mentioned that you are in some Facebook groups and stuff like that. How can people connect with you?
Um, I'm on Facebook and a lot of these groups just as Pat McIntyre,
Uh-huh.
just under my name. They can find us through the Laundry Spots website,
Okay.
laundryspotcharleston.com. That's probably the quickest way to reach out to us. The easiest way to reach out to us. You can reach out to us through TikTok as well. My wife runs that, so I don't have TikTok, but
So
you
I
can
need
reach out.
her autograph, not yours. Is that what you're saying?
Right, exactly. In case you didn't pick up on that theme, she's the rock star of all this.
Well, so is
Happy
she,
to
by the
be.
way.
Yeah, I know. I was like, no, babe, I'm gonna be the one in front of the camera today. She's no, but yeah, she's the one that handles a lot of that. But yeah, we love talking to people, and we love, if they are able to reach out through one of those channels. I'm more than happy to talk laundry industry and at least what I know, what I don't know. I really appreciate you guys having me on as well. This has been a lot of fun. I always enjoy talking to you. I actually want to thank both of you guys for what you've done for the industry, because again, it's already been valuable to me being an existing owner. But as I look, as we look behind us at this army of people that will follow in our footsteps into the laundry industry, you guys are just going to be such a valuable resource to them, and you already have been. You've helped our industry, you've helped elevate our industry, and you've also connected a lot of dots. You've given so much information, and so thank you guys for what you've done and for the journey that you guys have walked, and for your guys' heart to kind of give back to others and turn around and start sharing your lessons with others. That's hugely valuable. And on behalf of everyone that has benefited from you guys, I want to say thank you guys very much. It's a huge
Mm.
blessing what you've been to everyone. So thank you.
Oh, well, you're very welcome. That's very
Yes,
kind of you.
thank
It
you.
is genuine and it's sincere. So we always hope that, when you decide to go with a moniker of Laundromat Millionaire, that doesn't always come across as like the dude has a big heart, if you know what I mean.
Right, right. Yeah,
Some people
I get it.
misunderstand that, and I'd accept that for what it is.
Right.
But anyway, we are just genuinely two people owned some laundromats in Cincinnati, really tried to help people, connect people, whether it's the show or the Laundromat Millionaire conference or my book or whatever it is. We're really just trying to create resources that can
Right.
help others to be successful. And ultimately, our goal is pretty simple. It's really just that we understand the magnitude of when you and your family take over a rundown laundromat in Charleston, South Carolina. It revolutionizes that community. I don't say that word, I don't say that lightly. It changes the community and how these people are served and their pride in their community, because this is an essential thing. This isn't like, do I want pizza or a cheeseburger for dinner? This is a health issue. And
Yeah.
when communities are underserved, it's an important thing that we as business owners and entrepreneurs, I believe we should take it seriously. And, a few years ago, it took me 10 years, but a few years ago, I figured out, I guess I can't own every laundromat in the world. Apparently, Carla told me that. And once I realized, okay, I can't own them all, I was like, well, how can I help serve communities and other business owners? And this is kind of what we've come up with, is if we can help connect people, teach people, mentor people, coach people, whatever this looks like, that we can all move the needle together, which is where that term elevate our industry comes from.
Right.
So we appreciate you being a part of that. It isn't me, it isn't Carla, it's us as a community being diligent and intentional about this. That's really, really moving the needle. And I think you would agree that we can see that happening. We can see our industry slowly being elevated. The needle is moving. People like Brett, for example. Well, listen, man, thanks for taking the time today. Everyone at home, we appreciate you taking the time to consume our content, share this with other people, tag us on Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you find us. We just want to get this information out to the world so that we can all elevate our industry together. Until next time, Dave Menz, my wife Carla, and our friend Pat McIntire out in South Carolina. We'll see y'all next time. Take care.